January 8th, 2021. It is great to see you, and it's great to study together. I'm excited to continue our journey through starting the book of Exodus and concluding the Torah portion of Shemot, the first portion of the book. I'm going to share my screen with you, and let's jump right in. All right, give me a moment. Uno momento. Here we go.
Did you have chicken soup yesterday, Rabbi?
Always chicken. All chicken soup all the time. That's how we roll. Yes, it's pretty potent stuff in a good way. All right, we're gonna welcome Sandrine. Hey, Sandrine. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, so good to see you. All right, so let's jump right in. Fifth reading. Now, if you recall, this is we are in middle of the standoff. Let me stop sharing for a second. We're in middle of the dialogue between God and Moses at the burning bush. God appears to Moses. God says to Moses, I got a job for you. Moses says, what? I'm a shepherd. He says, no, I want you to shepherd my people. Go to Pharaoh, let my people go. Tell him, let my people go. And Moses immediately, if you recall from a few days ago, immediately says, nah, it's not for me. You got the wrong guy. I'm not qualified for the job. Send someone else. This goes on for a full week. So we're in middle of this back and forth. Moses says, what's your name? I don't even know if the people say, what's your name? What should I tell them? This is where we are in middle of. So let's pick it right back up. This is going to be chapter 3 of Exodus, verse 16, right here. God says to Moses, go and assemble the elders of Israel and say to them, the Lord God of your forefathers has appeared to me, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I have surely remembered you and what is being done to you in Egypt. So basically the message is, if you think the people are not going to believe, they're going to believe. Go to them and tell them this is happening. God is remembering. And continue. God says, and I said, right, God is saying to Moses to tell the elders, again, to quote in his name, that I will bring you up from the affliction of Egypt to the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, Jebusites, to a land flowing with milk and honey. Now, if you tell this to them, if you gather the elders of the people, the Jewish people, and they will hearken to your voice, again, Moses is concerned that Pharaoh won't listen to him and that the Jewish people won't listen to him. So God says, don't worry, I'm with you. You got this. I got this. They will hearken to your voice, and you shall come, you and the elders of Israel, to the king of Egypt, and you shall say to him, the Lord God of the Hebrews has happened upon us, and now let us go for a 3 days journey in the desert and offer up sacrifices to the Lord our God. By the way, this whole let my people go, we're going to notice this a bunch of times in the narrative. Initially, the request is for a 3 days journey in the desert, which implies, this is not necessarily what it means. So it goes on, but it implies that the people will go out for 3 days and that they will come back. That's the implication. Now, it's not written in stone, right? It's not qualified as absolute, but it's hinted here and intimated that they would be coming back, which we know ultimately they don't come back, but that's for another time, which we will discuss in the next week or two. Let's continue. God continues to Moses. Listen to this. Talk about foreshadowing the story. However, I know, says God, that the king of Egypt, Pharaoh, will not permit you to go, except through a mighty hand. The only way to get him to let you go is going to be through the fist, through a very strong action. Now, this refers to, of course, the 10 plagues that afflicted Egypt and Pharaoh, and ultimately broke that yoke of slavery from upon the Jewish people. Let's continue. And God continues to Moses. Again, this is still before anything's happened. This is still the dialogue, trying to get Moses on board to do this, to be the leader. God says, I will stretch forth my hand and smite the Egyptians with all my miracles that I will wreak in their midst, 10 plagues. And afterwards, Pharaoh will send you out. So God is telling Moses, this is how it's going to work. You're going to go to the elders of the Jewish people. You're going to first get buy-in. You're going to collect the buy-in from the Jewish people about their own deserving freedom and their own belief in it. Then you're going to go to Pharaoh and you're going to tell him, let my people go to serve God on the mountain for 3 days. And Pharaoh's going to say, you got to be kidding me, right? Like you're joking, right? This is a joke. Where are the cameras, guys? I'm being pranked. And you're going to say, no, it's legit. And he's going to say, well, then no way. Like, are you out of your mind? And you're going to say, but God's going to, it's not going to be good for you. He's going to refuse 10 plagues. And then he'll send you out. This is literally the script, right? Before it plays out, God is telling Moses, I'm giving you the script. All you need to do is follow the script. And that's it. It's an easy job, Moses, right? And he's being cast as the Moses, right? You see what's going on here? God casting Moses as Moses in the Exodus drama. All right, let's continue. And I will put, verse 21, and I will put this people's favor in the eyes of the Egyptians. In other words, the Egyptians will come to appreciate the Jewish people. And it will come to pass that when you go, you will not go empty-handed. They're going to give you stuff. Each woman shall borrow from her neighbor and from the dweller in her house silver and gold objects and garments. And you shall put them on your sons and your daughters, and you shall empty out Egypt. You shall empty out Egypt. Look at that. I'm going to get back to that in a little bit, but maybe I'll mention that right now. All of the wealth that Joseph had accumulated is ultimately, God is saying, ultimately going to go out with you, with the Jewish people upon the Exodus. And the people that are with you, the Egyptian, not with you, your neighbors, your Egyptian neighbors, they're going to be saying, go and take our stuff and go. This is the fulfillment of the promise that God made to Abraham, that although your descendants will be slaves in a foreign nation and they'll be in servitude, nonetheless, ultimately they're going to leave, they're going to be redeemed with great wealth. And this is the culmination of that. Well, hasn't happened yet, but this is again the promise of the fulfillment of that prophecy that God gave to Abraham centuries prior. Okay. Also, by the way, according to Kabbalah, the idea of emptying out the silver and the gold, emptying out the wealth, has a much deeper meaning, because money is how things get done in this world, right? It takes money, it takes resources to get things done. And so money represents could be the ultimate of materialism, the ultimate degradation, the ultimate decadence in a materialistic way, in a physical way, or the ultimate spiritual tool to get things done in a holy way, or to get holy things done in a holy way. So the idea of Egyptian wealth being converted to Jewish wealth, or more specifically, I'll be very clear here, the gold of Egypt ultimately being used to fashion God's temple, right? That's the ultimate transformation. Now, did they also use the gold for the golden calf? Shh, don't tell anybody. But the ultimate transformation was intended to be Egyptian gold wealth turned into a home for God. That's the ultimate transformation, and that's the intention here. I hope that makes sense. Let's continue. Exodus chapter 4, verse 1. By the way, again, as always, jump in. Questions, comments, clarifications, reflections, etc. All right? So it's up to you. Unmute yourself, jump in, raise your hand, and that's it. Exodus chapter 4, verse 1. Now, Moses responds. How do you say no to God's pitch? Watch. Moses answered and said, behold, they will not believe me. You're telling me that I'll go to the people and tell them all this stuff? They're going to say, Moses, you need help. Baba Mises, right? They're not going to believe me. And they will not heed my voice, but they will say rather, the Lord has not appeared to you. They're going to call me a liar. They're going to call me a fraud, a charlatan, a kook. They're not going to believe me. Listen to this. Moses is questioning right? Let me explain what's going on. Moses is questioning the faith of the Jewish people in God. You with me? Moses is saying they're not going to believe me about you. In other words, they lack faith. You know what we call in Hebrew? Lashon hara, gossip. Remember what the punishment later on in Torah is for gossip? Unmute yourself if you remember. What is the biblical punishment for gossiping and speaking ill of someone else? Jump right in.
Stoning.
This is a group question. Not stoning. This is not stoning. No, not for gossip. That would be
the
yes.
That stuff, whatever it's called.
Leprosy, the tsaras. Remember that? Right?
Yeah.
So what do you think happened to Moses? Moses now besmirches the name of the Jewish people. Guess what happens in the next verse? By the way, I'm embedding commentaries into it as we go through it. Okay? Let's go. Let's jump back in. Check it out. First time we find this used as a punishment. And the Lord said to him, look at verse 2. The Lord said to him, what is this in your hand? What do you have in your hand? Right? Little magic trick action. And he said, a staff. And God said to Moses, cast it to the ground. Throw your staff to the ground. And he cast it to the ground and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from before it. I guess Moses was afraid of snakes, right? So he throws his stick down, turns into a snake. Moses jumps. And the Lord said to Moses, now stretch forth your hand and take hold of its tail. Well, you're not going to say no to this. So Moses, and it was his, favorite staff. So Moses stretched forth his hand and grasped the tail of the snake, and it once again became a staff in his hand. So this was a miracle and a sign. And look what God says, in order that they believe that the Lord, their God, the God of their forefathers has appeared to you, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. In other words, this is a sign and a miracle that maybe is for you to believe or for them to believe. Either way, it's a miracle that that you can keep with you to know that indeed the people are going to listen to you. But I need to explain the depth of it. And simply it means it's just like a magic trick, a parlor trick. But what does it really mean? So I said before about the tsaras, and that's going to come up in verse 6 and 7. And I apologize for jumping the gun a little bit on that. But what's with the snake? The snake, originally, the serpent in the Garden of Eden, also spoke Lashon Hara, also spoke negative, said to Eve, why don't you eat from the tree? Oh, God said not to. Adam told you that God said not to. Oh, don't believe them. Don't believe God. Right? The snake was all gossipy. The snake was all, sowing negative stuff. The snake was being all snaky, all sneaky. And so Moses also, when he's speaking now ill of the Jewish people, saying they're not going to believe, God says, you're acting like the serpent here. You're acting like the serpent, saying not nice things about me, about my people, etc. You got to stop, desist from that. Also, I want to show you verse 2. Okay, look at verse 2. God says to Moses, what's in your hand? And if you look at it in Hebrew, it's written, so in the Hebrew it says mazeh. Mazeh means what is this, right? Mazeh. But it's ksiv in the Torah. In the Torah, it's written, look at this, look how it's written in the Torah, mem zayin hey, which could be read as mizeh, not mazeh. What's this? But mizeh, from what you're holding, which according to Rashi means, based on what you're holding in your hand, you should be hit over the head. Take a look. In other words, if you're talking ill of the Jewish people, you should be bonked over the head for saying such a thing. Look at this. What is in your hand? Hebrew mazeh, which is unusual. It's written here we go. It's written as one word to imply the meaning, from this in your hand, you are liable to be stricken because you've suspected innocent people. In other words, you should be struck with a staff in your own hand because of how you're speaking not nicely about people who are innocent. In other words, people who did nothing to deserve this level of suspicion, and you're suspecting them. That's not right. Let me explain what I'm saying here. Moses is suspecting the people of not believing in God and redemption. And God says, who are you? First of all, you're a Midian, right? Miles away from Egypt. You don't even know what's going on the ground. But how can you tell me, that I'm going to go to the people, they're not going to believe me? Why are you casting suspicion on my poor people? Of course they're going to believe. So number one, there's two things that are going to happen. The leprosy, the tsaras is going to happen soon. But the first thing is, number one, you should be bonked over the head with your staff, right? Not literally, but, you shouldn't have said that. It's not nice. And then it turns into a snake. And the snake is symbolic of, speaking ill, speaking negative, and trying to be sneaky and whatever. Let's see what happens next. I already told you, but let's take a look at it in verse 6. And the Lord said further to Moses, now put your hand. Oh, Joy, go ahead.
See, to me, baby, because I tend to be on the insecure side, that Moses is being insecure, not that he's attacking the people, that he doesn't feel confident.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I think that's where it's coming from. He wants to get out of it. So it doesn't matter what excuse he's giving, right? Throw somebody else under the bus. At the core is he feels he doesn't want to do it. I agree with you. But God says, you can be insecure, but don't throw my people under the bus. God is defending the Jewish people, which by Moses learns very quickly. And Moses becomes the ultimate defender of the Jewish people to the very same God. Are you with me on this? So I agree with you. I believe that it wasn't actually motivated by not believing that the people wouldn't believe. I think it was motivated by his own not wanting to do it. But God says
humility.
Yeah, it could be humility. But if you're being humble, but while you're being humble, you're throwing someone else under the bus, that crosses a line. And that's what God says. You can't do that. Like, don't drag someone else into your own either insecurity or humility, right? You don't want to do it? Okay. So keep it on point, but don't say, oh yeah, by the way, those people won't believe me either. That's going into territory that we shouldn't go. Listen, I'll tell you this, it's important lessons for all of us, right? Sometimes to get out of something or to get something, we end up, creating some collateral damage. And the point is, that's not cool. So here we have the second sign, which is the tsaras. And God said to Moses, after the staff snake situation, I'm sorry. And the Lord, verse 6, let's do this. And the Lord said further to Moses, now put your hand into your bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom and he took it out. I imagine that he put it into his jacket or his cloak, and then he took out his hand, and behold, his hand was, you guessed it, leprous like snow. Look at that. It was white, leprous, saras. And in the Hebrew, mitzoras. If you can read that, mitzoras. He was tsaras. Tsaras, we find later in the book of Leviticus, and our sages tell us it's because of the sin of speaking ill of others, lashon hara. And here we have the first documented biblical case of tsaras, literally the first time this word appears. And who gets it? Moses. And why does he get it? Directly following his assertion or his claim that the people are not going to believe in you, God. The people are not going to believe in redemption. And I agree. It was motivated by fear or humility or something else, but he said it and it wasn't right. Not to speak of somebody else, right? You can't speak ill of yourself either, by the way, but certainly not someone else. And he guessed tsaras. Don't worry. It's very quick. And God says to him again in verse 7, put your hand back into your bosom. And he put his hand back into his bosom. And when he took it out, it had become again like the rest of his flesh. Okay. Whew. Very short-term tsaras. By the way, this is another indication that tsaras is not a physical. Biblical tsaras is not a physical ailment. It's a spiritual malady that turns on and turns off, per God. All right, let's continue. And it will come to pass, God says to Moses, that if they do not believe you, if indeed the people don't believe you, and they do not heed the voice of the first sign, they will believe the voice of the last sign. All right, in other words, it's a double-edged message. Moses, you shouldn't have said it, but if you do need some extra ammunition, you can always do the staff snake trick, or the tsaras, no tsaras trick, and try to prove that you have special powers, or that there's some sort, not you have special powers, but that God is behind this. Let's continue. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. First of all, who's the they? I'm sorry. I don't know if this means the Jewish people. This may mean Pharaoh and his henchmen. One second. Let's see if there's a Rashi on the they here. God is telling Moses that he can use these signs if they don't believe you. Let's see Rashi. When you tell them, they leave it for them learned. All right. I'm not 100% clear. There might be different commentaries on this, but either way, let's go with the assumption that it means the Jewish people, which then makes the next verse a little bit complicated, but it is what it is. And it will come to pass, let's continue verse 9. If they do not believe either of these two signs and they do not heed your voice, again, I don't know who the they is. Is it the Jews or the Egyptians? It could be the Egyptians, because look what happens next. Then you shall take of the water of the Nile and spill it upon the dry land, and the water that you take from the Nile will become blood on the dry land. This refers to the first plague where the waters of the Nile turned to blood. My understanding is that this was a sign for the Egyptians. This was a plague for the Egyptians, but maybe a plague for Egyptians is also a sign for the Jews. I don't know. It could go that way also, but I'll let you decide for yourself which way you understand it. Let's continue. Moses said to the Lord, so that's God's response to Moses saying they're not going to believe me. Moses says back. Moses still is, all of this is to get him to accept the job. He's still not ready to say yes. Moses said to the Lord, in verse 10, I beseech you, O Lord, right? Please, I am not a man of words. Here's a man who does not want this job, by the way. Here's a man who does not want this job. He's like, please, I'm not a man of words. I'm not a public speaker, right? I'm not the guy, neither from yesterday, nor from the day before yesterday, nor from the time you've spoken to your servant, for I am heavy of mouth and heavy of tongue. That means either figuratively, he's not a man of words, or physically, physiologically, he had a speech impediment. Either way, he's telling God, I'm not the right guy. I'm not the spokesperson. But the Lord said to him, who gave man a mouth? Or who makes one dumb or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? In other words, you need help speaking. I know a guy. Well, I mean, I am the guy, right? I'm God. I can make you speak. I can make you speak. Don't worry. If you say yes, you'll have everything, all the tools, all the abilities that you need to do it. God says in verse 12, so now go. I will be with your mouth, and I will instruct you what you shall speak. In other words, I'm going to help you. You're not doing this alone with your own abilities. I am going to make it happen. Moses still is not ready to say yes. But Moses said, I beseech you, O Lord, send now your message with whom you would send, which we understand means don't send me, send the one, either send Aaron or send my brother or send Mashiach, the ultimate redeemer. But either way, don't send me. And the Lord's wrath was kindled against Moses. At this point, God's getting frustrated with Moses, right? With all the humility or the not me. And God said to Moses, is there not Aaron, your brother, the Levite? I know that he will surely speak, and behold, he is coming forth toward you. And when he sees you, he will rejoice in his heart. In other words, if you need a spokesperson, if you need someone else, if you're not confident to do it alone, all right, you have your brother. You'll go together with him. You shall speak to him, to Aaron, and you shall put the words into his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and I will instruct you both what you should do. In other words, if you really need someone else to go with you, I'm going to give you Aaron, but stop saying no. And he will speak for you to the people. Aaron, will speak to you for the people, and it will be that he will be your speaker, and you will be his leader. He'll be the spokesperson, and you'll be the leader. Yeah, Donna, go ahead.
Why do you think that God was so insistent that it be Moses?
Oh, because Moses was the humble one, as you said before. And that's who you want to be the leader. Because you don't want someone who's running after it, because then corruption sets in. Typically, this is how it works. And this is not a theory. It's not my theory. I'm telling you straight up what it says in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers, and elsewhere in Jewish law and ethics. It says, be very wary of those who run toward power. Because if somebody's running toward power, right, it's typically for a self agenda. It's for their own reasons. And then in short order, it's not going to be about the people. It's not going to be about the job. It's going to be about ego and self-preservation or self-aggrandizement or money or power or fame or all of the above. And it never ends well. So who do you want in power? Not in power. Who do you want to be a leader? Someone who doesn't want to be the leader. So when Moses says, no, God's like, all right, I really need you to do this. You're really the guy, right? You're really the guy. And okay, if you need help, I'm going to give you every resource you need. I will give you. You got me, you got your brother, you got everything you need. You got magic tricks, whatever you need, you got. Just do this. That's my understanding, because he was humble. All right, and you shall take, so, okay, good. And you shall take this staff in your hand, which you shall perform the signs. Don't forget the staff, right? You have me, Aaron, and you got the staff. The staff and the staff. Let's continue. It was a small operation. I don't think he had a whole staff, but he did have a staff. All right, reading 6. We're going to try to knock out the rest of the portion. We're going to go through this pretty quickly. So look at this. Moses still did not say yes. There's still one final, at this point, by the way, Moses is pretty much, I don't know if he's convinced, but he realizes there's no way out of it anymore, right? There's no other thing that he could say to kind of get out of it. It's like, it's literally him. That's it. But there's still one more thing that he has to do as an act of courtesy, and that is ask his mishpacha, right? Because he's going to now have to go into a dangerous mission. So he goes to his father-in-law. Moses went and returned to Jether. Yes, sir. This guy has so many names, can't keep track. He was Ruel, he was Yisro, and now he's Yeser or Jether. Same guy. So he went to his father-in-law and he said to him, let me go now and return to my brothers who are in Egypt, and let me see whether they are still alive. He kind of like doesn't reveal the whole truth. He says, I just want to check on the mishpacha back home in Egypt. So Jethro said to Moses, go in peace. Essentially, he was asking for permission to leave. He left his, he did take his wife and kid. All right, but either way, he asked for permission and his father-in-law said yes. This is Torah is all about instructions. Be a mensch. Be a mensch with family, etc. Even when God asks you, don't forget to check in with the in-laws. The Lord said to Moses and Midian, go return to Egypt, for all the people who have sought your life have died. In other words, remember Moses was a man for killing the Egyptian? Well, they had pulled down his posters by then. So God says, and you can go and you'll be safe. So Moses took his wife and his sons, mounted them upon the donkey, and returned to the land of Egypt. And Moses took the staff of God in his hand. The Lord said to Moses, when you go to return to Egypt, see all the signs that I placed in your hand and perform them before Pharaoh. But once again, this is the second time it's being mentioned. I will strengthen his heart, will not send out the people. Actually, I'm sorry, the first time it says that Pharaoh will be stubborn. This time it says, God is saying, I'm going to help make him a little bit more stubborn also. And he's going to refuse, which, by the way, I know gets into the question about free choice. We'll get to that next week. We're not going to cover that today. All right, let's continue. God says to Moses, continues, and you shall say to Pharaoh, so said the Lord, my firstborn son is Israel. So I say to you, listen to this, foreshadowing the last plague, send out my son, the Jewish people, so that he will worship me. But if you refuse to send him out, behold, I'm going to slay your firstborn son. In other words, if you're harming my firstborn son, the Israelites, then I'm going after your firstborn son, which was the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn. This is again foreshadowing, and ultimately that's what broke Pharaoh, this plague that's being mentioned. All right, so that's what God has given Moses the instruction and the charge and the inspiration, and now they're journeying. He and his wife and his kids. Now he was on the way. Moses was on the way in an inn that the Lord met him and sought to put him to death. Well, that doesn't sound right. After all this, God is going to kill Moses? That doesn't make any sense. Turns out that Moses failed to do a very important mitzvah, circumcise son. And his thought was, well, we're traveling. So he just had a kid. We're traveling. It's dangerous, whatever. We should probably go to Egypt first, and then I'll worry about the bris. Nope, that wasn't cool. So his wife, Zipporah, she was a very smart woman, and she realized what was going on, why Moses was in danger. So she took a sharp stone, wow, and severed her son's foreskin and cast it to his feet. And she said, "For you are a bridegroom of blood to me." So he released him. Then she said, "A bridegroom of blood concerning his circumcision." That's a very interesting set of verses, right? 3 verses that are very interesting. Most people are not familiar with this story, but this story is right in the middle of this Exodus narrative, where God sought to punish Moses for not circumcising his son. His wife steps in, does an impromptu circumcision, and says, "Angel of death, go away." And so, and they all lived happily ever after. Good? Ish? It's interesting. There's more to talk about this, but I still want to get to the end of the portion. All right. If you'd like, you see it, chapter and verse. It's chapter 4 of Exodus, verses 24 through 26. Feel free to look it up and explore more commentaries on it. But that's the basic story. The Lord said to Aaron, "Go toward Moses to the desert." So Aaron went and met him on the mount of God, and he kissed him. Moses and Aaron had not seen each other for decades. Now they're reunited. And Moses told Aaron all the words of the Lord with which he had sent him, and all the signs that he had commanded him. So Moses and Aaron went, and they assembled all the elders of the children of Israel. So basically, God tells Aaron, "Meet Moses, he's coming towards you." They meet. Moses fills Aaron in on the entire conversation that God had with him about the redemption of the Exodus. And now they went and gathered all the elders. And now now it's it. Game on. Moses and Aaron tag teaming on this. It's rolling out. So what happens? Aaron spoke. Remember, Moses said he didn't want to speak. So Aaron spoke all the words that the Lord had spoken to Moses, and he performed the signs before the eyes of the people. And lo and behold, the people believed. Look at that. After all that, they believed the message and the redemption. And they heard that the Lord had remembered the children of Israel and that he saw their affliction. And they kneeled and prostrated themselves. Ah, beautiful. All that remains is to get Pharaoh on board, and then we're done, right? The Jewish people are on board. All you need now is buy-in from Pharaoh. What could go wrong? Yeah. Let's see. Exodus chapter 5. Here we go. And afterwards, Moses and Aaron came and said to Pharaoh, "So said the Lord God of Israel, send out my people and let them sacrifice to me in the desert." So after such a successful mission to the elders of Israel, they figured, we'll go to Pharaoh, give him the message, and we should be good. Well, not exactly as planned. And Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord? Who's God, that I should heed his voice to let Israel out? I do not know the Lord, neither will I let Israel out." Right? Very simple response. Right? Moses says, "God, let my people go." Moses says, "I don't know God, and I'm not letting your people go." So there you go. You had a request denied. God told you to tell me this. I don't know who God is. Right? So it's irrelevant. And they said back to him, to Pharaoh, "The God of the Hebrews has happened upon us. Now let us go on a 3-day journey in the desert and sacrifice to the Lord our God, lest he strike us with a plague or with the sword." And by the way, lest he strike us, meaning you. They were just speaking respectfully. In other words, if you don't let us go, then there's going to be a plague or death. Right? Plague, which is, destruction, or straight up death. So this is where the threat comes in. They said it nicely. Us, lest he strike us. It wasn't us. It was you, but they were speaking respectfully. But that's a warning, right? We asked nicely. You said no, but if you don't, this is what's going to happen. But the king of Egypt said to them, "Yeah, no dice. Why, Moses and Aaron, do you disturb the people from their work? Go to your own labors. Go back to day trading, right? Go buy some more Bitcoin. do your thing. What are you wasting your time with speaking to me? It's not happening. And Pharaoh said, behold, now the people of the land are many, and you're stopping the labors. You're speaking to them about Exodus. They're probably going to stop. They're probably going to have fantasies in their head about, stopping working. Stop this. Stop the stoppage. So on that day, Pharaoh commanded the taskmasters of the people and their officers, saying, listen to what he said. You shall not continue to give stubble to the people to make the bricks, like yesterday and the day before. Yesterday. Let them go and gather stubble for themselves. But the number of bricks, listen to what he says. He's basically making it harder for them. He's increasing the workload, making it more difficult by not giving them the raw materials to make the bricks for the buildings, with the intention that the only reason why Moses and Aaron are there are because the people have fantasies of redemption and freedom. That must mean they have extra time in their hands. So he's going to make sure that they're working harder, that they stop with their dreams. But the number of bricks that they have been making yesterday and the day before yesterday, you shall impose upon them. You shall not reduce it, for they are being lax. They're being lazy. Therefore, they cry out, saying, let us go. Therefore, they cry out, saying, let us go and sacrifice to our God. It's because they are lax. They're being lazy. That's why they're saying, let's go and sacrifice to our God. So let's make sure they're not lazy. Let's make sure they have enough work to keep them busy. Let the labor fall heavy upon the men, and let them work at it, and let them not talk about false matters. So the taskmasters of the people and their officers came out and spoke to the people, saying, so said Pharaoh, I am not giving you stubble. You shall go for yourselves. You shall go take. You go take for yourselves stubble from wherever you find it, because nothing will be reduced from your work quotas. So the people scattered throughout the entire land of Egypt to gather a gleaning for stubble. And the taskmasters were pressing them, saying, finish your work, the requirement of each day in its day, just as when there was stubble. And the officers of the children of Israel, whom Pharaoh's taskmasters had appointed over them, were beaten, saying, in other words, there were Jewish laborers, and then there were, listen to this, it's similar to what the Nazis did. So there were the Jews were forced into labor, and then the Egyptians forced Jews to be on top of other Jews. In other words, to make sure that they got the quotas done. And if the quotas weren't done, the Jewish supervisors that would get beaten. You with me on this? The Jewish supervisors would get beaten if the people, so just making people turn on each other. It was horrible on every level. So they beat up now, right? They were beaten. The officers of the Jews were beaten, saying, why have you not completed your quota to make bricks like the day before yesterday, neither yesterday nor today? So the officers of the children of Israel came and cried out to Pharaoh, saying, why do you do this to your servants? Stubble is not given to your servants, but they tell us, make bricks. And behold, your servants are beaten and your people are sinning. What do you want? You want the same output, but you're not giving us the materials. We can't do it. We can't do it. So you're beating us. The people are failing. They're sinning in your eyes. What do you want us to do? But Pharaoh said, you're lax, just lax. You're being lazy. Therefore you say, let us go and let us sacrifice to the Lord. He repeats this thing. I'm going to prove to you that it's because of your laziness that you're dreaming fantasies of freedom. And now go and work, but you will not be given stubble. Nevertheless, the same number of bricks you must give. The officers of the children of Israel saw them in distress, saying, do not reduce the number of your bricks, the requirement of each day in its day. They met Moses and Aaron standing before them when they came out from Pharaoh's presence. So now the officers, these people in an impossible position, now confront Moses and Aaron. And they said to them, may the Lord look upon you and judge, for you have brought us into foul odor in the eyes of Pharaoh and the eyes of his servants to place a sword into their hands to kill us. In other words, you've made things worse. By going to Pharaoh, you have made things worse for us. So Moses returned to God and returned to the Lord and said, O Lord, why have you harmed this people? Why have you sent me? Since I have come to Pharaoh to speak in your name, ever since he has harmed this people and you have not saved your people. In other words, it's only gotten worse. The Torah portion ends with this unbelievably dramatic verse. And the Lord said to Moses, now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. For with a mighty hand he will send them out. With a mighty hand he will drive out of his land. You ain't seen nothing yet. Don't let a little hiccup derail the plan. Don't let that get in the way of the destiny of what's going to happen. This concludes the Torah portion. So in summation, what we have is finally, what we read today, Moses is finally convinced to let the Jewish people out. Moses is convinced, to be a leader of the people. Goes to Aaron. They speak to the Jewish people, the elders believe, the people believe. Goes to Pharaoh. Pharaoh says, not happening, nothing doing. In fact, I'm going to make it more difficult. The people complain. The officers complain. Pharaoh says, I don't want to hear it. More work for you. They come to Moses and Aaron. What did you do? You thought you were helping? You made things worse. You put a sword into their hands to hurt us further. You made it worse. Moses says to God, so why'd you send me? To make it worse? Now I'm the bad guy. And now your people are suffering more? This seems like a very bad idea. And God says at the final verse, don't worry, you ain't seen nothing yet. Everything's about to change. You're going to see soon, everything gets better, and Pharaoh will send these people out. All right, that concludes the Torah portion. There's a lot of commentary on it, but I think even the core story is valuable enough with the lessons that we can all internalize, including this last one. Sometimes you got to look at the big picture and not get dissuaded by, a small hiccup or a small, setback. Don't let the little setback get in the way of a bigger dream, of a bigger goal. All right. Questions, comments before we close it out and wish each other good Shabbat. Oh, Mark says, my Rashi says straw, not stubble. I honestly, as a kid, I remember learning about straw to make the bricks. What is stubble versus straw? I have no idea. I don't know the distinction. I'm not qualified enough to know the distinction. But whatever it was some sort of natural ingredient to make the bricks that Pharaoh says we're not going to supply that anymore. They have to supply that themselves. Questions, comments?
Ari, I came across something very interesting, mostly to me because I'm a Levite.
Yeah.
And this is earlier on, this is further back. It says that when Moses, when God kept giving Moses signs why he'd be okay, Moses kept hesitating. No. Finally, it says God's anger burned. And in the Rashi, it says, every time it says God's anger burns, there's a curse. And then it says, but in this case, there wasn't one. But then Rashi goes on to say, actually, there was, because actually right after that, it's right after it says anger burned, it says your brother Aaron will be with you, the Levite. But he says what that really means is Aaron will be the Kohen and you will be the Levite. You would have done it before, but now you've lost that ability to be the Kohen. You will be So I never. That was very interesting to me because that's where that's my.
That is interesting. Yeah. It almost sounds like God is telling Moses, "You've lost your shot at the priesthood because you're giving me such a hard time about this. So now you really want him. You really want him on board. Then he's going to be the Kohen."
Yeah.
What are you going to do? All right. Good. Any questions, comments? That's it. All right. Good to see everybody. Have a wonderful Shabbos. I'm going to sign off. Everyone be well, stay healthy, and I will see you very, very soon. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.